Of what significance is the 60th anniversary of the 1956 Women's Anti-Pass March? What does Women's Day mean to women with disabilities? Is government legislation on the employment of women with disabilities fully adhered to? Does Deaf SA fully represent people with hearing difficulties? Welcome to Question Time. My name is Puleng Molebatsi. Mpho Tsedu will be back here tomorrow. It's Women's Day, and Question Time afforded me the opportunity to discuss pertinent issues affecting women with disabilities. As the country celebrates 60 years of the memorable Women's March of 1956, a number of women with disabilities battle to break into the job market. This despite existing labor laws, and when they do finally break into the job market, they struggle to grow in their respective careers. President Jacob Zuma delivered today's keynote address under the theme Women United in Moving South Africa Forward. We are live, therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial are 089 11 42 10, or if you are international, you can dial 002789 110. My guests today are in studio, and it's an all-female panel. And with me, we're going to start right there. We have Judith Matsi. She is the director of Deaf SA, and I do have right next to me is Emily Oliphant. She is the founder and director of the Emily Oliphant Foundation. And in our Pretoria studio, I've got Tabai Ngabinde, the chairperson of the Employment Board at the Department of Labor. Okay, ladies, welcome to Question Time.
Thank you for having us.
And I promised Judith I'll do this. So Judith, welcome to Question Time. Okay, ladies, let's begin. The reason why we are gathered here today is we are looking at 60 years later, celebrating Women's Month in South Africa. Today is Women's Day. And Emily, you are here from your foundation, but you also worked with the CETA in the placement and actually keeping track of how many people with disabilities are placed in different jobs. Let's start with you. How effective is the labor law that companies are supposed to employ people with disabilities? When you worked with different companies, what were some of the challenges that you encountered?
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Question Time.
Thank you. I think people with disabilities should not be treated any differently to when placing them in comparison with any other ordinary candidate.
Yeah.
People with disabilities have skills and capabilities like any other person. So when you place people with disability in the workplace, it's very, very critical that from the time when you advertise vacancies, specifically targeting people with disabilities, they need to be clearly identifying what are the skills and what are the capabilities required for people with disabilities to perform those specific jobs. And for example, if someone who is blind has to apply for a job and they cannot read your workplace magazine, for example, we need to make sure, in fact, I think it's something that the Department of Labor can look at introducing into or proposing to the print market to say, if you have your job market magazine or newspaper, can you add additional papers, for example, in Braille, so that you can clearly give, you print those advertisements targeting people with disabilities, because you need to have access to people with disabilities. Otherwise, we shouldn't be having questions in this day and age of companies saying, but where do I find disabled talent? We got to make it accessible for them to reach those advertisements.
Thank you, Emily. You're very passionate about these issues. But let's go to you, Judith. You work with Deaf SA as a director, and you're actually the relevant person to speak to on behalf of other deaf women in South Africa. What does Women's Day, a day such as this one, mean to deaf women in South Africa?
Thank you very much, and for inviting me in question time. I am a provincial director for DEFSA Gauteng. Yesterday we do celebrate a 60 years anniversary for Women's Day, but unfortunately deaf women outside there cannot celebrate this day perfectly because there are no accessibility for them. Because the reason why I'm saying that there's no accessibility, sign language is not yet official in South Africa. So the main priority for a deaf community, the deaf women, is a communication. So where's the communication? So without communication, no one can participate everywhere, anytime. So that's where deaf women outside they are still, they don't have accessibility at all.
Okay. Thank you, Judith. Metabia, can I go straight to you? The ladies here have already raised their own concerns about their existence in the workplace. Let's talk about this law. It's been in existence for 16 years now. Since it's been in existence, what would you say are common cases that come up when you hear from different companies about women specifically with disabilities in their companies? You know, what's the common feedback?
Well, let's just talk first about the law itself and what it says about persons with disabilities. We refer to them as persons with disabilities in terms of to align ourselves with the ILO, which clearly defines them as persons, not as people, because when you start talking about people, you're talking about a group. But we acknowledge that even within the group, each person is individual and has individual needs. So going back to the Employment Equity Act and persons with disabilities as a designated group, what we say is, in terms of the law gives them access to jobs, a right to jobs. It gives them the ability to be treated in equality, the environment to be changed or designed in such a way that they can be most active and enhance their capabilities within the work environment. So what that would mean is that the employer should ensure that all obstacles towards performance for persons with disabilities are removed, and we call that reasonable accommodation.
When we come back from an egg break, Metabia, we're going to look at what the Department of Labour is doing to ensure that the companies are following up in terms of accommodating people with disabilities. And today, because it's Women's Day, we will focus on our women, which make a very small percentage in the job market. All right, Question Time is taking a break. We'll be back. Remember, you can tweet us at Question Time 24 and you can call us. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Do you need a funeral policy?
Joy is found in the little things. Ke ho phedisa, ho fepa le ho hodisa.
Ukuba ibona ukuvela kwethuba lalokho okungenzeka.
In being there when one journey ends and another begins.
An ideaal van die klein dingetjies wat kosbare herinneringe word. Life is the gift of growing new memories each day.
So that our loved ones can preserve them after we are no longer here.
Life is a gift to us.
Since 1918, AVBOB has comforted and supported South African families in their time of need.
Protecting their loved ones' memories with respect and dignity.
Plus, committed and trusted funeral representatives
With more than 250 branches nationwide.
There for you every hour of every day.
AVBOB provides a complete funeral service solution for everyone, even if you're not an AVBOB policyholder.
Make sure your family comes first, always.
AVBOB, we're here for you.
If you would like AVBOB to call you about a new policy, SMS family and your name to 41790.
You see this, but you feel this. You see this, but this is what you feel. You don't see this, but it feels something like this. And this is what you drive. The Audi A4 110 kilowatt Sport from only 5,999 per month. And we'll cover almost 3/4 of the deposit.
It's Macro's 45th Big Birthday Bash, and our gift to you is big savings. Get the Samsung 55-inch Smart SUHD TV for only 16,999, save 5,000 Rand. Or the Russell Hobbs stainless steel food processor, only 899, save 700 Rand. And save 500 Rand on the Tefal 7-piece non-stick cookware set, now only 999. Get these and many other great deals in-store and online with Macro's Big Birthday Bash. Macro, big on life.
Welcome back to Question Time. You are still watching Question Time here on SABC News. My guests today are Judith Madi, Director of Death SA, and Tulufelo Sukhwati is a sign language, the lady that's sitting right next to me, Judith, over there. And Emily Oliphant is the founder of the Emily Oliphant Foundation. And joining us from our Tshwane studio is Metabia Kabinde, Chairperson of the Employment Board at the Department of Labor. Okay, ladies, welcome back. Okay, let's before the ad break, we looked at the companies and what the law says and what the companies are doing. I'm going to start with you, Judith. How are women, deaf women, dealing with the workplace? What are the type of challenges that they face when they are placed into these different companies?
Okay, thank you again. The main challenge is accessibility at the workplace because of their education background. They don't have accessibility in those companies. I'm talking about the reasonable accommodation. Like, for example, there are no sign language interpreters there. So most of the companies have negative mind that when you appoint a deaf woman, means that that women have to they have to appoint sign language interpreter, which is wrong. But now in white paper, everything is clear, saying that a reasonable accommodation must be there at the workplace. So that barrier, there is a barrier for women with disabilities. Remember, those other women have been abused at home. They don't have a knowledge that they have to stand up and look for a job. So they chose to stay at home. So this is the barrier. There's a lot of barriers.
So let's pause it there. We'll continue with that. We've got Ayanda from Khayelitsha. Ayanda, welcome to Question Time.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
We're good, thank you.
Yeah, fine, ma'am. Ma'am, as I'm watching, man, I'm just watching this, and I've got something. You see, I just think that even the government of South Africa isn't doing much. I mean, to introduce us to the sign language. You see why I'm saying that? What happened last week? Music came here and want to introduce the Mandarin. You know what I mean? They can at least introduce the South African child to the sign language. You know what I mean? Because if you check in most cases, you go to the shop, get someone who cannot even talk the sign language. You get into the bank, no one can help someone with a sign language. You understand that?
Okay, so Ayanda, let's also bring it back to our discussion here in studio, and I'm gonna take that and incorporate into what we're talking about and ask Metabia in Pretoria, because also what's most important is that we empower women with disabilities, and now Ayanda is talking about sign language, and now there's issues of education, and can it be the 12th language, can it be taught in school? But now when these women go into the workplace and you find that a company has to employ one, what are they supposed to do in terms of making sure that there is accessibility, that the employees and the employers can speak sign language, even though they've employed one person?
The law talks to reasonable accommodation. And reasonable accommodation is actually around removing barriers to performance for people. So employers have a responsibility to ensure that they remove all barriers in a reasonable manner. And we're talking cost becomes then an issue. And what we're finding most of the time is that employers will raise the issue that often they do not make enough profits to be able to ensure total reasonable accommodation for the people that are there. We have some employers that are really advanced and that have embraced employment equity. And when we had our awards last year, one of them that won the awards was the Department of Transport, Roads and Transport in Mpumalanga, because primarily in terms of employment equity, what they did was to really look at the individual needs of people within their organization and to ensure that there was reasonable accommodation. So if it was a person who was deaf, they would ensure that there was the sign language. So they really went out of their way to accommodate every single person who has a disability. And that is the ideal situation. Ideally, that's what we would look for, but we also say that it should be reasonable accommodation.
Emily, you have worked a lot with different companies. Let's look at how are the companies doing in terms of skills development. Do you find that at least some companies do introduce programs to empower the women in the workplace so that they can progress in their respective careers?
I like what Matabia has just said, to say that the Act allows the companies to be able to know how to go about implementing employment equity effectively in their workplace. And besides the Act, we also have prostitution, which is a great support, by the way. And the Cabinet in December just recently launched the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities. And given all these information available to employers, really we shouldn't be sitting here wondering why is it that we're moving so slowly to enhance or develop our people to reach those senior or top positions. I think for me the challenge with the companies, and maybe Matabia can give an input there, is to say 16 years down the line, we still have very low number of women represented in the management, in the top and senior management, for example.
But Emily, let me take it back to you. Why do you think there is blockage with women in the workplace? Before I go to Metabia, because she will elaborate on, maybe she can even come in and say what can be done going forward.
I think for anybody to be able to do their job effectively in a workplace, those barriers need to be removed. I remember the one time, if I might give an example, so that you can practically understand what I'm talking about. One of the companies I worked with, when I got there, they didn't have toilet facilities, for example, in the area where I was going to be working at, which meant for a few months while they are building the toilet facility in my area, I needed to squat in another division. Now, what then happened is 3 weeks down the line after that facility has been built, the toilet rooted out of the ground. Now, number one, they didn't use the right specification or consult the right company to say what are the specifications needed, for us to ensure that we build the reasonably accommodating facility for Emily. And during the whole construction, very little consultation was done. So employer and the employee need to constantly engage to say what is working and what needs to happen for you to be comfortably placed.
Hold that thought. I want to bring Judith into this, what you just... Judith. Okay, Judith, let's go back to you. You spoke about education earlier on, and you said that was also a barrier. Okay, so you see now that's even a hindrance before you even move to the job market. So imagine now in the job market you have your job specification that you need to adhere to. How does the Department of Labor have to deal with this in the workplace?
You know what, Puleng, education is a priority. Indeed, it's a barrier for deaf people. They cannot get, they cannot hold high positions. The Department of Labor requirements is degree. You have to go to the university. Most of deaf women don't have those the qualifications. So most of the deaf women have grade 8, grade 9, grade 11. The highest is grade 12. They don't have accessibility to university. They have a barrier to access their university to tertiary levels. But when you look at them, they have an experience. So the barrier is that they don't have a degree, so now they need to remove that. When they appoint a person, they can appoint that person looking at that woman's experience, that women have a skill in computer.
I understand that the biggest challenge is breaking into tertiary. We'll get back to that. Eunice from Pretoria, welcome to Question Time. Eunice? Eunice, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, Eunice, welcome to the show.
Okay, thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yes.
As it is Women's Day, okay, we celebrate, but like everybody is saying it, we think the government is still too slow to do certain things. I'm a nurse by profession. I'm almost 50 years now. I struggled for 10 years to get a job in the government. I'm theater trained. Whereas in the previous apartheid government, nursing job was not a problem. So if they can do this to us, what more about the people with defects? You understand what I mean? We struggle normal as we are. And also when we are in a private sector, there are a lot of cases of physical assault and verbal assault. Doctors still beat the nurses. I've got cases. But the people don't want to witness, so there's still a lot to be done. I myself was also assaulted at work by a colleague in 2014. So it's because there's no body who follows up on us. So we there, the government doesn't hire us, there we're in the private sector. There are no structures in place where to go for help. It's all what I can say.
Okay, thank you so much for your input, Eunice. I just have to pose one question to Metabia in our Tshwane studios. Metabia, what can the department do going forward to make sure that this law actually do benefit women with disabilities? They can move and hold senior positions.
The department... Okay, in fact, I should just say government has a number of legislation, transformation legislation, that really is there to address the disadvantages of the past. And this covers also persons with disabilities. So in terms of doing what it could, to a large extent it has. Government, we must remember, also has limited resources. There's only a certain number of people in certain roles, and it's very difficult for them to be everywhere at all times. What we as a commission, as part of our strategic objectives, one of the things that we're very passionate about is to create workplace activists. We believe that part of the problem is that in the workplace, there aren't enough people who stand up for their right and take the necessary action to whistleblow when there is injustice. We've got systems in place where one can whistleblow. We've got the CCMA. You've got the Department of Labor, where we have inspectors, where if you complain about a certain employer and discrimination there, the department can send inspectors into that workplace to investigate. So what I'm saying in totality is that transformation legislation is in place, and a lot is being done by government. What I believe should be happening is that the public should be holding hands with government to ensure that implementation at grassroots level is happening effectively.
Thank you, Metabia. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. Time does fly when you're having fun. Thank you so much for you at home for watching, and the question time for making today a possibility for women with disability. Let's carry on with our discussion on our social media pages and on other platforms that you can engage with our panel today. Thank you, ladies, for coming. And for you at home, it's a goodbye from us here on Question Time.